Biggest stars take center stage deep in the heart of Texas for the Midsummer Classic. It's the 2024 All-Star Game. Coverage begins tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
The only All-Star game worth watching. Pro Bowl's unwatchable. NBA All-Star Game used to be watchable. Now it's Drek. So I'll be watching tonight. So this story was reported at the end of the NFL season that Bill Belichick was in line for the Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Sirianni's job, but Jeffrey Lurie, the owner, despite the fact the Eagles crashed hard at the end of the season, decided to stick with his young coach. So a story came out this morning that Nick Sirianni dismissed those rumors. He is 34-17, year 2 on the job. He got him to a Super Bowl. But we often talk about coaches on the hot seat. And Mike McCarthy of the Cowboys is viewed as a coach on the hot seat. I think equally as hot is Nick Sirianni. Number one is Philadelphia has fired really good coaches. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. Andy Reid got to, I believe, 5 NFC championships. And Chip Kelly had a winning record. They ran them all out of town. Secondly, Sirianni, without Shane Steichen, who's now the Colts coach, has not been very good. Until Shane Steichen took over play calling duties, the Eagles were a bit of a mess offensively with Jalen Hurts. And this is what would really trouble me. When he left, Shane Steichen did, they were fine early in the season, as Nick was using a lot of Shane Steichen's momentum. But the longer Shane Steichen was in the rearview mirror, the worse it got. That's a problem. You know, it's like and I've said this before in college football, if you have a great coach, Chip Kelly at Oregon, and then a coach takes over for him, he's going to have some momentum for the first year, year and a half, 2 years. Judge him by year 3. It's now his program and his players. I grew up Jim Lambright, Don James. We saw it like Larry Coker took over for, I think, like Butch Davis in Miami. Butch built that puppy up, players everywhere. By about year 3 or 4, it's not the same program. And so Sirianni used some of the Shane Steichen momentum. The further Steichen was away from the job in Indy, the uglier it got. And the third thing is, and fans always push back on this stuff, because most guys listening to the show will never get an amazing job. You may get a solid job or a good job. You're not going to get like corner office 7-figure jobs. Most guys aren't. And so they don't understand that when you get one of these class jobs, these 5-star jobs like NFL head coach, there's a way to act. If you get the corner office, you can't go out drinking and boozing and be on the internet. There's a stigma with it. Sometimes Nick Sirianni comes off as cringy and juvenile, yelling at fans in the stands. He comes off as really young, really juvenile. This is the NFL. Your job is to put a wet blanket on heat, is to cool things off. Even coaches that we don't perceive as great, like Jason Garrett, I always thought was very good in Dallas, which has always got something broiling under the surface with Jerry Jones. Did a good job of kind of being a wet blanket, a cooler on those sort of stories. And he may not have been as great a coach as you want him to be, but there is value. Zach Taylor, I think, in Cincinnati, that ownership situation's always been a bit wonky. He's good at diffusing stuff. McVay. The really good coaches in this league know what not to say and what not to do, right? Like that's the that's a real thing when you get the corner office job, not stepping on it, diffusing stuff, not lighting stuff up. I said this about Baker Mayfield. Dude, go to the podium and just be Dak Prescott. Go be Jalen Hurts at the podium or Tom Brady in his prime. Eli Manning. Diffuse the story. Don't add flame to the story. So I think Mike McCarthy is viewed as the ultimate hot seat coach. I think Nick Sirianni's got a hot seat. And I also think Washington is significantly better this year. The schedule for the Eagles is tougher. The NFC is overall better this year. So keep your eye on that. I also have Nick Wright's coming up next hour. Final hour, Adam Wainwright, great last time he was on the show. I'm going to save my Caitlin Clark story. I was going to do it this hour. I'm going to save it for next hour. But it is driving, the WNBA is driving me crazy on this constant discussion. Here's the headline today. It drives me crazy. Why Caitlin Clark's brutal WNBA turnovers might be good for her. It's not brutal. She's a playmaking guard. Do you know LeBron James' rookie year in the NBA? He was third in turnovers. It worked out pretty well. You know who was third in turnovers last year in the NBA? Wemby. I think he's going to have a good career. You know who had a lot of turnovers early on? Andrew Luck. He won 11 games. Stop worrying from quarterbacks and point guards. Stop worrying about mistakes. If you play fast and if you're productive. You know who has a lot of turnovers NBA history? LeBron leads. John Stockton's, I think, second, third, or fourth, and Steph Curry. Yeah. Here we go. It is a Tuesday, and we are live in Los Angeles. It's The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, thanks for making us part of your day. We have so many things to talk about today. All-Star Game tonight in Fox. Nick Wright stopping by. There are so many good topics today. Here we are in July, middle of July, and this is usually the slowest sports week of the year. And we got a ton to talk about today. J-Mac.
Should be a very spirited show, Coward.
And I want to start about something. Just because you have power in life, be very, very, very careful about always using it, because people keep track. We'll start the show talking about the misuse of power, not the abuse of power. I don't think it rises to abuse, but it's arguably misuse. So Jaylen Brown doubled down on his Nike theory, which is the reason he is not on the Olympic basketball team is because of Nike. I think he's right. It should be noted, he's the best player in the league, not on the team. He's not a Nike guy. Kyrie Irving's the second best player in the league, not on the team. He got dropped by Nike in 2022. I don't think it's a coincidence. Nike right now has a leadership issue, and I was in Beaverton, Oregon this weekend going to the zoo, not Nike, in Portland. They butchered the Major League Baseball jerseys. It's as bad a gaffe as I've ever seen in my life on jerseys by a sports apparel company. And Nike usually gets it right. Their stock is down 33% in 6 months. Phil Knight is now 86. He's a visionary and a brilliant man, but he acknowledges he is all in on Oregon football, winning them a natty in the NIL. And now they have the Olympic mess. It feels like there's a leadership issue as Phil Knight ages. This happens all the time in corporate America. There has always been this very tricky dance by Nike and sports apparel companies. You want to use the velvet hammer, not the sledgehammer. You have massive power in college and professional sports. You don't want to abuse it. And I don't think this rises to abuse of power. It's the Olympics. It gets political. It was political, MJ and Isaiah Thomas. But it does feel like an overstep, an overreach by Nike. Jaylen Brown not being on the team is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The finals of the MVP of the finals and the Eastern Conference Finals. He's a tremendous basketball player. Nike, a misuse of power. The second misuse of power we have seen this week, LeBron James and Clutch Sports. They engineered Bronny getting drafted with the number 55 pick. Now, it was a terrible draft, and anybody drafted there was going to be a G leaguer at best. But Bronny offensively doesn't even look like a G leaguer. It's been embarrassing. He's 0 for 14 on threes. He was bad again last night. Now, I do think athletically he can be a defender in this league. Maybe. But he would not have been drafted if not for LeBron James and Clutch Sports. In a good draft, can't draft him. This team, the Lakers, can't really waste draft picks. But they do need on-ball defenders. They're old in spots, expensive in others.